communication, we're at the point of no return.
Drowned? But how? There's no water here.
Can you hear me?
She's still here.
The ship screamed as it tore through the moon's upper atmosphere, a soundless vibration rattling its frame. The descent had gone sideways fast. Alarms flared, the emergency systems barely keeping pace. The crew braced for impact, but the moment it hit, it was worse than anyone had imagined. Inside, silence followed the crash. Dust and debris floated, lit only by emergency strobes pulsing red. Dr. Song hung upside down, unconscious, strapped into her seat. Blood pooled along her scalp and drifted upward in slow blobs. A low groan escaped her lips. She stirred, then jolted awake, gasping. Her head spun with pain, her ears ringing. It took her a second to realize she was inverted. She fumbled with the harness, struggling with the release buckle. Her hands were trembling. When it finally clicked open, gravity, or what little of it the moon offered, sent her falling hard. She slammed onto the ceiling, or what was now the floor, knocking the air out of her lungs. Across the cabin, Captain Han was already moving. He winced as he unstrapped himself, favoring one arm. "Status," he barked. Pilot Kim responded first. "Navigation systems are fried. Comms are dead. No response from command." "Backup power?" "Non-functional," added Yun, the co-pilot. "Everything's offline. We're blind and stranded." "Send out an SOS. Try everything," Han ordered. "Even the old relay channel." Kim tried, but the transmitter just spat static. "Nothing. We're cut off." Kwang let out a sharp cry. He was slumped in a corner, half-conscious, his suit stained red. Hong, the ship's medic, was already beside him, scanning his vitals with a handheld. "Multiple fractures, broken ribs, maybe punctured lung. He's crashing." "Stabilize him," Han said. "Do what you can." Song staggered to her feet, still disoriented. The cabin around her was chaos. Loose supplies, shattered panels, the acrid smell of fried circuits. She looked toward the viewport. Through the cracked glass, she saw it, the edge of a massive crater, disturbingly close. The lander had come down hard and wrong. One of its legs was hanging over nothing. Han noticed it too. He moved toward the central console, steadying himself. "We're tipping," he said, more to himself than the others. "We're at the rim. If the weight shifts," Yun began, but didn't finish. "We'll fall," Han said flatly. Kim's voice wavered. "We need to get out." "We're not leaving Kwang behind," Hong snapped. "No one's being left behind," Han growled. "Suit up. Priority is stabilizing Kwang and evacuating before this thing tips over." The crew scrambled. Every second counted. They pulled on their EVA suits with shaking hands. Song's breath fogged the inside of her helmet. Her pulse wouldn't slow down. The lander groaned. Everyone paused. Another shift, a hard one. The floor tilted an inch and a crate slid toward the airlock. "We move now," Han ordered. Kim and Yun took Kwang's arms, lifting him as carefully as possible. Hong stayed by his side, monitoring his breathing. They moved toward the hatch. Song followed last until the lander lurched again. She stumbled, landed near the back, and the ground beneath her boots began to tilt, downward toward the crater. Then she slipped. The world turned upside down. The edge of the hatch looked impossibly far as she slid backward toward the abyss. Her gloved hand shot out, found nothing. Then another hand, Hans, snatched her arm. He anchored his feet, gritting his teeth, and pulled her up with a growl. Together they tumbled safely toward the others. "Move!" Han shouted. They spilled out of the lander just as it gave its final groan and dropped several inches closer to the rim. The crew lay sprawled on the regolith, panting, the dark curve of the crater yawning behind them. Their ship was lost. Ahead, nothing but the desolate expanse of the lunar surface, and far in the distance, the faint silhouette of Balhae Station. 7 kilometers, Hans said, checking his oxygen gauge. "That's our shot. We walk." No one argued. There was no time. With Kwang half-conscious and barely able to breathe, they hoisted him between them and began the long, slow march toward a place that had been sealed for 5 years. No one said it out loud, but they were all thinking the same thing. Something was very, very wrong. The world was drying up. Rainfall had become a memory in many regions. Rivers once thought eternal had vanished into dust. Coastal cities watched the sea retreat, mile by mile, their foundations cracking as groundwater disappeared. Within a decade, it was estimated Earth's available fresh water would drop by nearly half. The numbers were terrifying, but what was more terrifying was how little anyone seemed to agree on what to do about it. Governments rationed water with military precision. Citizens were issued water cards, color-coded to reflect their assigned status. Gold for the elite, silver for the essential, bronze for the rest. Unofficially, there were black cards too, which meant no access to safe water at all. Riots broke out daily. Protesters filled streets, demanding passage of the Fair Water Distribution Act. But assemblies rejected it every time. Too costly, too complicated, too dangerous. Food became the next battleground. With most agriculture collapsing, corporations and governments pivoted to vertical farming and synthetic protein. Still, the shortages spread. Infant mortality soared as more children died from contaminated water than from disease or war. Desperation grew. Even the law changed. Keeping pets became illegal. Still, many refused to part with the only companionship they had left. Enforcement was inconsistent, and black market pet food was more valuable than some medications. In the middle of this unraveling world, Dr. Song had disappeared from public life. Once a leading astrobiologist, she'd vanished from the scientific community without a word. Now she worked quietly as an ethologist, studying animal behavior in restricted biomes. She didn't give interviews. She didn't take calls. She didn't care. So when Kim showed up at her lab, she was already irritated. "I'm not available," she said, barely looking up from her tablet. "You'll want to hear this," Kim replied. "I don't do astrobiology anymore. You will for this mission. I won't." I'm not interested in government-sponsored scavenger hunts. He waited. When she didn't speak again, he leaned forward. The destination is Balhay Station. That made her pause. The stylus slipped from her hand. He watched her reaction, waited for the follow-up. It came quieter than expected. Why? Director Choi requested you personally. That got her attention. Her expression flattened. Choi? She said you were the only one qualified, that your judgment would matter out there. Song stood, walked to the window. Beyond the glass, the artificial biome shimmered, a small oasis under a dome. Her voice was low. That place should never have been reopened. Kim didn't argue. You'll be briefed on the details. The mission is to retrieve sealed containers and shut the facility down for good. There's a radiation leak. Song turned. You're lying. If there was still radiation, no one would be going near it. I'm telling you what I was told. She didn't believe him, not fully. But the word Balhay still echoed in her mind like a pulse. Later that day, she visited the memorial. The names of the 117 dead were etched in a black wall. Some names had flowers beneath them. Most didn't. She stood there for a long time, reading every name twice, but never once letting her eyes rest on the one she couldn't bear to see. Behind her, the wind carried a dry, chemical sting from the nearby air recyclers. Even that smelled wrong. At the mission launch facility, she met the crew for the first time. Han, the captain, was stern and unreadable. Pilot Kim was efficient, already running simulations in his head. Co-pilot Yoon was younger, sharper, more nervous. Then there was Ryu Gong, the systems officer, quiet but observant. The Dr. Hong greeted her warmly, spotting the gold water card tucked in Song's case. You don't look like the gold card type, Hong said with a smile. I'm not, Song replied. Hong nodded, not pressing. We don't need to be friends, but isolation doesn't work well out there. Just be careful with your walls. Before Song could reply, Director Choi entered the room. The temperature dropped. The crew straightened. Choi and Song locked eyes, two people who had shared something too private to speak of in public. No one else knew they were sisters. During the mission briefing, Choi laid out the official line. The radiation leak had made Balhay Station unstable. They were to retrieve containers from 3 locations and shut the station down. The containers were sealed in temperature-controlled capsules. If intact, they would be safe to extract. If compromised, they would require extreme caution. What's inside? Song asked. We don't know, Choi said. That's not good enough. It's all we've been given. Song looked around the room. You want me to guide a team into a contaminated facility to retrieve a mystery substance that may or may not be deadly? Yes, Choi said, because you're the only one who might understand it, and because this isn't just a mission, it's a chance to fix what was broken. Song didn't respond. She couldn't, not in front of the others. Han spoke up. We follow orders. We retrieve the samples. We get out. That's the mission. After the meeting, Song pulled him aside. You're comfortable with this? As a scientist, it's your job to figure out the unknown, he said. As a soldier, mine is to finish the mission. His calm infuriated her. She wanted to scream at him. But before she could, they were interrupted by crew members calling for final boarding. At the last moment, there were changes. Co-pilot Yun was replaced by Lee, a stranger with a military background. The crew didn't hide their confusion. No explanation was given. Kwong, once an engineer at Bali, also joined at the last minute as an advisor. He barely spoke, his eyes distant, as if haunted already by what he knew. In the loading bay, Song strapped into her seat. Kim ran final checks. Hong offered her a reassuring nod. Han stood at the center, steady and silent. As the engines roared to life and the ship rose from Earth's surface, Song gripped the arms of her seat. She wasn't ready. She didn't believe in the mission. But she had to know what really happened at Balhae Station. The hatch slammed shut behind them, sealing out the dead silence of the lunar surface. Inside the entry chamber of Balhae Station, the crew collapsed in exhaustion. Their oxygen levels had been dangerously low. Han had barely made it through the airlock before blacking out. Yun was doubled over, coughing violently. Kim ripped off his helmet and gasped like a man drowning. Dr. Hong moved from person to person, checking vitals with mechanical precision. Kwong didn't make it. They'd carried him as far as they could, but in the final stretch, his breathing had turned shallow. He'd murmured something, just one word: water. Hong had tried to give him some from her emergency pack, but he refused. There was desperation in his eyes, not thirst, as if he wasn't asking for water but warning them about it. Before they could press him, his body convulsed. Blood foamed from his mouth. He died in the dust, lungs crushed from within. Now, inside, with oxygen flowing again, silence fell. No one spoke. They all knew something was off. The crash had already rattled them, but the station felt wrong. The internal lights flickered as they powered up emergency systems. The corridors were dim and stale. Ice crystals clung to some of the walls, evidence of low temperatures, maybe failed environmental regulation. But the radiation warning lights that were supposed to be blaring, nothing. Not even a hint. "Let's get the command systems online," Han said. His voice echoed flat in the steel hallway. "Power up the station, check conditions, and then we move for sample retrieval." The crew split into two groups. As Song followed Kim and Gong deeper into the station, she glanced at her portable radiation meter. Still low, unchanging. Either the readings were wrong or the official story was. She wasn't sure which was worse. Then they found the body. It was lying in a corridor, slumped against a bulkhead, face swollen beyond recognition, skin stretched and bubbled. Rigor mortis had locked the limbs at unnatural angles. But what made everyone stop cold was the condition of the lungs. Even without cutting it open, it was obvious the man had drowned. "Are you seeing this?" Hong asked, kneeling beside the corpse. "Drowned?" Yun echoed, incredulous. "That's not possible." "There's no water on the moon," Kim said. "At least not like this. This doesn't make sense." Hong shook her head. "I'm not saying that's what happened, but the signs are there. Pulmonary edema, fluid retention, swollen airway." Gong stepped back. Could it be a leak in his suit? Rapid decompression? "Number, this is internal fluid buildup. It looks like drowning." Everyone fell quiet. Mercenaries, someone muttered. Han looked up. What? There were reports, Yoon said, in the years after the station shut down, that scavengers were trying to break in, resource mafias, RX maybe. No one survives 5 years in this vacuum, Kim replied. Then someone got in recently. Han shook his head. We're not here to speculate. We find the control room. We get this place up and running. Stay focused. They moved on, though unease hung heavy. Song lagged behind slightly, watching the body one last time before turning away. Something about it gnawed at her. Inside the command center, Gong powered up the systems. Consoles flickered to life, screens stabilized. Song watched intently. Everything, life support, temperature regulation, electrical circuits, all fully operational. No radiation warnings, no structural failures, no sign of an explosion. Everything's functional, Gong said slowly. All systems green. All except comms, Yun added. Still no connection to Earth. Mission Control will see the power spike, Han said. If they're paying attention, they'll know we made it. Song removed her helmet. This wasn't a radiation leak. We've been lied to. Han turned to her. We're not here to investigate the past. Maybe we should be, she snapped. That body didn't die from radiation. Something else happened here. We follow the mission, retrieve the samples. That's it. There's more at stake, Song said. You know it. You're shutting this down because you're afraid of what we'll find. Han stepped closer. You're out of line. Song didn't flinch. Then answer me this. Why are the radiation levels stable across the whole station? No variation, no decay pattern. It doesn't match any known leak profile. And why seal a station over one death, or even a handful? Gong broke the tension. There are 3 locations that require level 1 clearance. They were the first sections sealed when the station went dark. Han turned to him. And the sample containers. 1 in each of those zones. Then we split into 3 teams, Han said. You know your assignments. As the crew dispersed, Song pulled Gong aside. I need access to the database, she whispered. I already tried. All the crew ID microchips were fried in the incident. Even the backups? He nodded. It's like something surged through the system, wiped it all clean. Song didn't respond right away. Her thoughts drifted to Hang, the man who had once helped build this place. Before he died, she'd asked him about a name. Luna. His reaction had been immediate, panicked. You heard that from Choi, he'd asked. She mentioned it in passing, she'd lied. Impossible. She wouldn't bring that up, Hang had said. Luna wasn't a person, it was the station's database. Now, in the present, Song's suspicions deepened. In another wing of the station, Han approached a sealed door. It wouldn't open. He and Kim forced it together, prying it wide just enough to slip through. Behind it, dozens of corpses. Each one bore the same signs as the first, bloated, grotesque, waterlogged, all long dead, and all with the same impossible expression. Song arrived minutes later. She stood in the doorway, stunned. This is what I've been saying, she whispered. We need to examine one, find out what really happened. No, Han snapped. This mission isn't about your personal vendetta. You know something you're not telling us. He didn't respond. Elsewhere, a memory haunted her, of sitting in Choi's office before the launch. Choi had placed the gold water card on the desk between them. "Think of it as a gift," she said, "from your sister." "You said not to talk about her," Song replied. "Not to the others. They can't know who she was to you." "Then why ask me to go?" "Because you're the only one who might understand what was really happening at Balhae." Back in the present, the crew split again. 2 teams reached their assigned storage areas, only to find empty containers. Nothing left. No samples. That left Song's team as the last hope. But as they approached their target zone, Lee suddenly slowed. "There's movement on the scanner," he said. "We're not alone." Yun, who had joined them, turned sharply. "Could be more bodies." Lee looked at Song. "Don't listen to Han. Go to the infirmary, do the autopsy. If we don't find out what's killing people here, we won't make it out either." Song hesitated. Then she left. She walked away from the mission. Lee slipped into the storage room behind her. He scanned the containers, empty. Frustrated, he dropped his flashlight. As he reached for it, the beam flickered, then died. He cursed softly, reached again. The light flicked back on. Then it moved. Something dragged it into the darkness. Lee froze. Meanwhile, Gong, walking alone down a corridor, stopped suddenly. His body stiffened. His face went blank. And under his skin, something began to shift. The lights buzzed overhead, flickering in unnatural pulses. The hallway stretched out before Gong, sterile and silent, until it wasn't. He stopped walking. His boots locked in place as though the moon's gravity had increased just for him. His arms dropped to his sides, his breathing slowed, became shallow, then disappeared altogether. One of his eyes twitched, his jaw clenched. A ripple moved beneath his skin, from the base of his neck to his collarbone. Another followed, snaking up to his temple. He stood there, unmoving. Behind him, Yun called out, "Gong?" No answer. "Hey, are you okay?" Gong didn't turn. His head tilted slightly, like he was listening to something far away. His mouth opened just a little. His lips were cracked. A glistening droplet rolled down his chin. "Water." Yun took a step back. Her voice cracked. "Gong, what's happening to you?" He finally turned. His pupils were blown wide, his expression empty. His skin, slick with sweat that hadn't been there a moment ago, shimmered in the dim light. Then, without a word, he collapsed. Elsewhere in the station, Song stood in the infirmary, alone, breathing heavily. The lights above her buzzed with static. Her gloves were off. Her hands trembled. The body lay on the table in front of her. Another drowned face, bloated, unrecognizable. She had begun the autopsy, slow, methodical, but the deeper she cut, the less sense it made. The lungs were filled with fluid, clear, viscous, not mucus, not blood. Water, still cold. Song leaned in. There was no ruptured artery, no external wounds, no signs of a pressurized suit failure. This person hadn't inhaled water. This person had made it. The water had come from inside. She grabbed a scalpel and made another incision. Beneath the ribs, something pulsed. Something living. She froze. It twitched again. She dropped the scalpel and stumbled backward, gasping. In the corner of the room, a motion sensor light switched on, without any movement. Song turned toward it slowly, breath catching in her throat. She wasn't alone. She bolted out the door, sprinting down the corridor, her footsteps echoing like gunshots. As she turned a corner, she collided hard with Han. "What the hell is going on?" he barked. "Gong's infected," she panted. "It's not radiation. It's not exposure. It's inside the water. Whatever killed the original crew, it's still here." Han's expression didn't change. "You knew," she said. He didn't deny it. "What was the mission really about?" she asked. "What are those samples?" Han looked away. For the first time, he looked scared. "There was a child," he said slowly, "before the station was shut down. A girl. She was born during the last cycle of experiments. They called her Luna." Song's chest tightened. "That's the database name." "No," Han said, "it's not. It's her name." Song didn't breathe. "A child on the moon." They were growing her in isolation, studying cellular regeneration. She could survive in environments no human could. She didn't need air the way we do. She didn't dehydrate. Her body produced water. Song shook her head. "That's impossible." "She was the key," Han said, "to ending the water crisis, to rewriting human biology." "Then what happened?" Han's voice dropped. "She became contagious." Behind them, a scream echoed down the hall. "Yun!" They ran. They found her slumped beside Gong's body. Her face was pale, her skin glistened, her eyes wide with terror. "I didn't touch him," she whispered. "I swear I didn't." Song looked down at Gong. His chest was rising and falling again. He was alive, but his body wasn't his anymore. Inside his mouth, a glimmer of water pooled, defying gravity. Han grabbed Song by the arm. "We have to go. We can't leave them." "Then they'll leave us," he said, pulling her back. Alarms began to blare. Doors slammed shut. Automatic systems kicked in. The station was locking itself down. Containment protocols, Song realized. The kind that were never supposed to activate again. As they ran, a new thought rooted in her mind. This wasn't a tragedy. It was a test. They hadn't been sent to retrieve samples. They'd been sent to see if the infection had survived. And it had. In the distance, a child's laugh echoed through the station. Light footsteps, a shadow slipping down the corridor just out of reach. Han looked at Song. "She's still here." The lights cut out. Darkness swallowed them whole.